Liberty in our lifetimes in a free state of our own. That's the vision. That's the dream. And we are building it in New Hampshire. I'm Eric Brakey, your host and renegade statesman for the Porcupine Report. Welcome to your source for porcupine news and free-range conversation on matters of liberty. All right, let's hop into the show. Hey there, all you porcupines. This is your host, your renegade statesman, your executive director of the New Hampshire Free State Project, Eric Brakey. Thank you so much for joining us today for episode 77 of the Porcupine Report. Of course, we bring to you a new episode every single Wednesday at 7 o'clock p.m., which you can find on most major social media platforms if you follow the Free State Project on X and Facebook, on YouTube. We're up on Spotify and several other podcasting platforms. Wherever you are consuming this show, I very much appreciate it if you like, share, leave positive comments, whatever applies for your individual platform. Share it with your friends. I do appreciate seeing every single week that our audience continues to grow and continue to get good feedback. And we've got a great episode for you today. Before we... We'll get to that in a moment. We have a pre-recorded interview that I recorded when I was down in Texas just the other week for the Ron Paul 90th birthday barbecue. I had a great conversation with Lynn Ulbricht, and we'll be getting to that in just a bit. Before we get there, of course, I want to say a thank you to our sponsor for the Porcupine Report, which is, of course, Porcupine Coffee Roasting. It's good. Porcupine Coffee Roasting is not just coffee, it's a revolution in your mug. Proudly operated by Free Staters in the Free State. They roast only specialty grade beans from small producers. It's always fresh, roasted in small batches to order. With a roast date you can trust, there are no stale beans from these Liberty lovers. I promise you that. Porcupine Coffee is all about sovereignty as a private membership association. They embody the live free or die ethic, giving freedom-minded folks like you a way to choose liberty with every sip. It's crafted for the caffeinated and the freedom-loving, perfect for those who are embodying the free state spirit wherever they are, because did I mention that Porcupine Coffee Roasting ships across the country? You don't have to live in New Hampshire to get it. Wherever you are in the U.S., they will ship to you. And when you drink Porcupine Coffee, you're supporting a small, independent PMA powered by Free Staters who are dedicated to living free. And here's the deal that we have for you. If you use our discount code PORCREPORT, you can get 15% off of individual product orders, and a portion of your purchase will go to help support this very program. So I like to call that a win-win-win. It's a win for you because you're getting great coffee. It's a win for these folks, these coffee roasters in the Free State who would appreciate your business, and it's a win for the program because your support, your purchase help to make sure that we continue producing a new episode every single week. So go ahead to porcupinecoffeeroasting.com, use our discount code PORCREPORT, get 15% off, and I guarantee you will get you'll enjoy the coffee. It's very good. It's the only thing I drink now at home. I forget Folgers. I don't even touch the stuff. It's all Porcupine Coffee Roasting for me. So thank you all very much. And I hope that you live free, drink free, and stay caffeinated. All right. Some upcoming events I would like to tell you about. In our weekly newsletter last week, we just announced, and you should be getting our weekly newsletter. If you aren't, I promise you it's a great newsletter. You will not regret signing up for it. You should go to fsp.org and sign up for that newsletter. Give me your email address so I can stay in touch and let you know all that's going on every single week in the Free State. And in that newsletter, you also get the weekly episode of the Porcupine Report. So that way you'll ensure you never miss an episode. So you can sign up for that at fsp.org. But in our newsletter last week, we did announce an open ticket sales for a new event that we are doing. Of course, with the Free State Project, we are looking to do more events that create more opportunities for liberty lovers like you to come and visit us in the Free State. And next September 21st, it's a Sunday, we are doing the first annual Granite Freedom Trek. So lace up your boots and join some fellow liberty lovers for a thrilling celebration of community, freedom, and New Hampshire's stunning wilderness. Whether you're a seasoned hiker or curious newcomer, this one-day adventure in the Granite State invites you to connect, explore, and take a bold step toward liberty. This will be a one-day event, rain or shine, for active Free Staters and libertarian visitors who enjoy the outdoors. Join us as we traverse New Hampshire trails in good company during one of the most beautiful times of the year. Tickets are just $35. We make it very affordable, and we only have 20 tickets available right now. We're keeping it small. If there's more demand than that, we might look to expand, but I think kind of a good hike, a nice small group is great. So this is a great opportunity for you to go hiking with some people who share your liberty values right at the cusp of autumn when the leaves are starting to change. We are going to be hiking Mount Cadogan and Mount Firescrew. It's a moderate 5-mile loop. It offers some breathtaking 360-degree views of New Hampshire's rolling hills. And it is going to be led by expert hiker and guide and Free Stater, a native Free Stater. He's born here in New Hampshire and still a Free Stater because he shares our vision for a free New Hampshire, Derek Prue. So we look forward to that. So you can get your tickets for the first annual Granite Freedom Trek at fsp.org/trek. So go there. It's just $35. And with that, not only do you get a hike with a professional guide, you're going to get a commemorative t-shirt, and we're also offering a free complimentary drink ticket for when we finish the hike. We're going to be going to a restaurant and celebrating. So sign up for that. Would love to have you join us. Again, tickets are limited. We just have 20 tickets for sale. So you're going to want to act fast at fsp.org/trek. And I will look forward to hiking alongside you through some of the beautiful trails of New Hampshire this September 21st. So that's the first event I wanted to tell you about. And additionally, coming up in October, we have two events. One event is really kind of multiple events in one all weekend long. But the first one I want to tell you about is the Free State Bitcoin Digital Asset Conference hosted by our friends, Bruce and Carol Ann Fenton. This is going to be October 12th, 2025, and it's going to be a great conference with discussions on the cutting edge of digital assets, Bitcoin, crypto, blockchain technology. And as a special gift to you as someone who watches this show, we have a discount code for you. If you go to blockchainnh.com and use my discount code FSPFriend, you can get 50% off your tickets for the Free State Bitcoin Digital Asset Conference. And I will be there as a speaker and also watching the other speakers. So I would look forward to seeing you there if you want to come out and join us. And you know what? Perhaps you are an enthusiast for all things cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and digital assets, but maybe you're married and your wife and your kids find all that stuff boring. I mean, not everyone can be as enlightened to understand how fascinating these digital asset talks are. And if that's the case, then you should bring them along anyway, because all weekend long, because this is going to be the long weekend, Columbus Day weekend. So we're talking October 11th through the 13th. We also have Fall Fest, which is being hosted by our friends at the Independence Realty Group. They're having several events that are taking place. I already announced there's going to be a family hike, an arcade day, apple picking, corn maze, a time to get out and explore New Hampshire with the family. Maybe you're attending the Free State Bitcoin Digital Asset Conference on Sunday, and they're going out to these other events, and you can join them on Saturday and Monday for the long weekend for those other things. So if you want to learn more about Fall Fest, and we'd love to see you there, then you can go to fsp.org/fallfest, and that'll actually just redirect you to the Independence Realty Group's event page where you can get more details on some of these events. Some of these events are ticketed, so you are going to want to look it up ahead of time and get a ticket. Other ones are ones you can just show up for, but more information is on the site. So go to fsp.org/fallfest, and what a great way to spend your Columbus Day weekend. Family-friendly fun and Bitcoin, blockchain, crypto, digital assets. It's a great mix. Fun for everyone. All right, those are upcoming events I want to tell you about, and I certainly hope you do join us for at least one of them. Again, we are trying to make sure we've got more events, and we're publicizing these events that are happening all year round in the Free State. We want to get more visitors here. It's not just Pork Fest and Liberty Forum. Those always bring out a lot, but we have events going on all the time, and you are invited to join us any time of the year. All right. So those are the events. That's the event rundown. Before we get into the interview that I recorded with Lynn Ulbricht, who is, of course, the mother of Ross Ulbricht, who has started a new organization called Mothers Against Cruel Sentencing. We'll be showing that conversation I had with her in a little bit. I did just want to say something on some current events that are going on in the world, which is the ongoing diplomatic efforts between President Donald Trump and the leaders of Russia, Ukraine, and Europe to try to bring an end to this very unnecessary provoked conflict, this proxy war that's been going on in Ukraine for much of the last 2.5 years. You know, I remember 2.5 years ago, I stood on the floor of the Maine Senate and I gave my remarks on a resolution that was put forward, which had like cookie cutter language. You could have cut out a CNN headline saying, "We condemn Russia's invasion of Ukraine in this unprovoked conflict." Well, I'm certainly happy to condemn Russia invading. I'm happy to condemn any initiations of hostilities in a war that kills innocent civilians. I think it's right to condemn that. But what I could not stand by idly and say was sign my name to a resolution that said it was unprovoked, right? This is this word that was being regurgitated and repeated as ad nauseum, and you still hear it to some degree to this very day. We have the opportunity, our government has the opportunity to bring an end to this conflict because it is our government that provoked this conflict. It is our government that has been expanding our military alliance eastward, gobbling up more former Soviet bloc countries into NATO, oftentimes through color revolutions, overthrowing the governments of those countries to replace them with governments that are hostile to Russia and more in favor of the Western national security state. Whatever you think about these different actors, I think we just always have to put ourselves in the shoes of our adversaries to understand how we would respond if this was done to us. How would we respond if Mexico had a color revolution where China or Russia overthrew their government and inducted them into their military alliance? Would we just say to Mexico, well, you know, this is a country with self-determination, and if they want to invite Chinese troops into their country and put missiles on our border, well, they're a sovereign country and we'll allow it? Of course we wouldn't. We have something called the Monroe Doctrine, where we've told all the great powers in the world, stay out of our hemisphere. Don't mess with us. Don't come over here. And of course, we know how we responded during the Cuban Missile Crisis, where, you know, the threat of nuclear missiles in Cuba was, we didn't say, well, Cuba's a sovereign country. They have a right to have whatever weapons from foreign governments in their country that they want. No, we were ready to go into a nuclear conflict over it. So we need to understand this, and I'm sure that many in our audience does. But I just want to say this because, of course, I've been very critical of Donald Trump. I voted for Donald Trump this last election cycle, partly on the promise of two things. One, that he would free Ross Ulbricht, which he did, and I'm very grateful to. And in my interview with Lynn, we'll be talking a little bit about that. But also on the promise that he would take the threat of nuclear war off the table by bringing an end to the war in Ukraine. And I will be the first to admit that in the first 7 months of his presidency, I've been pretty disappointed that I haven't seen much real progress and action on that. But I have seen Donald Trump, now that he is sitting down, he sat down in Alaska with President Vladimir Putin. He's been sitting down with Vladimir Zelensky and European leaders, and I've seen many critical of him, particularly in the establishment media, for sitting down with Vladimir Putin. But of course, this is exactly what needs to happen. The first step to peace is to talk to each other. And I just want to say that I really am glad to see these conversations taking place. I hope that we can end this war. And I hope that, and I just want to, I will say, you know, despite Other criticisms I have for the president, particularly, we've been very critical on this program about the conflict going on in Israel and Palestine and how our government is handling that. And that's a wholly separate issue that I have many criticisms over. I do want to say, and I do want to be encouraging for these peace talks. And I think that we all should be. However you feel about Russia, however you feel about Ukraine, the threat of nuclear war on the table is not good for anyone. It's not good for Russians. It's not good for Ukrainians. It's not good for the American people. It's not good for anyone in the world living under the threat of total atomic annihilation, which is really the threat we should be remembering is hanging over our heads when any two great nuclear powers are on the cusp of war with each other. So Donald Trump, and to those non-interventionists and realists who seem to have his ear right now, please keep it up. And to the neoconservatives who I'm sure are waiting in the wings trying to derail these peace talks, well, I just hope that they do not win the day. All right. I've said my piece about getting back on the path to peace. Because we can't have much of a free state if we're all dead from nuclear weapons. So let's get into the interview that I had with Lynn Ulbricht. And of course, I want to say again, this was recorded at the Ron Paul 90th birthday. I was very, very honored to be invited to be down there and to not just record an episode of the Porcupine Report, but to be on the main stage, moderating a conversation with Congressman Justin Amash and Congressman Chip Roy. At some point, we're going to have the video of that we can publish online. But for now, I had this fascinating conversation with Lynn Ulbricht. We talked a little bit about Ross and his experience and her experience at PorcFest this year. But we really focused on her new organization, Mothers Against Cruel Sentencing. And I think it's really great what she is looking to continue doing, taking the lessons that she learned from her advocacy for her son's freedom and taking those same strategies to advocate for freedom for others who are being unjustly incarcerated for very, very long periods of time, oftentimes for totally nonviolent offenses. So we had a fascinating talk, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hey there, all you porcupines, you. This is your host, your renegade statesman, your executive director of the New Hampshire Free State Project. I am Eric Brakey, and thank you so much for joining us today for a very special episode and a very special broadcast of the Porcupine Report. We are broadcasting to you from Ron Paul's 90th birthday celebration in Lake Jackson, Texas. I'll tell you, I'm so glad to be down here. Fun fact, my birthday, I just turned 37 yesterday. Ron Paul's overshadowing me a little bit, but you know what? I think he's earned that. And it's actually a real honor to be here in Lake Jackson with so many friends from the Ron Paul Revolution, those who fought hard for those presidential campaigns in 2008 and 2012, which really planted the seeds for the liberty movement as we know it and understand it today. And of course, in New Hampshire with the Free State Project, we lead the way by having a place to concentrate libertarians. Libertarians from across the country and the world have been moving to New Hampshire for over 20 years now and building libertarian community and having a big impact on the culture and the politics of the state. We're now a quarter of the state legislature are Ron Paul-style libertarians, probably more than any other state you could point to in the country, and we're leading the way on issues ranging from abolishing the income taxes to universal school choice to constitutional carry for gun rights and so much more. But of course, so much of the energy and momentum of both our movement and the liberty movement at large really began with the seeds that Dr. Ron Paul planted in 2008 and 2012. And myself personally, I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for the good doctor. He, of course, so many of us were kind of drinking the Kool-Aid of cable news and regurgitating the things that Bill O'Reilly and Sean Hannity told us back in the day. Certainly that's where I was until this humble country doctor ran for president and was fearless and stoic in his ability to tell the truth against very powerful institutions from the military-industrial complex to the central bankers. And that inspired so many to take the torch and continue carrying it forward, even after he retired from Congress, and said, the revolution is yours now to carry on. Well, the revolution lives in New Hampshire. I'm very, and I certainly want to invite anyone who might be not a regular viewer of the show, because I know we're broadcasting live right now through Young Americans for Liberty. I certainly would like to invite everyone to come and visit sometime in New Hampshire. We have regular events that are well known around the libertarian world, including the annual Porcupine Freedom Festival, also known as PorcFest, every summer, and the New Hampshire Liberty Forum, which will be coming up again this early March. You can learn more about the Free State Project and sign up for our weekly newsletter, which I personally write every week. I promise you. It's a great newsletter. You're not going to think it's like more junk mail. You're going to love getting this newsletter every single week with news about what's happening with the tip of the spear for the liberty movement in New Hampshire. So you can learn more and sign up for the newsletter at fsp.org. Now, for our conversation today, I'm so glad to be joined by a great friend of mine who I've gotten to know over the last decade, I suppose. She's been a regular attendee at the Porcupine Freedom Festival, advocating for the freedom for her son, and now advocating for freedom for so many who have been unjustly incarcerated with cruel sentencing. Her name, I'm sure you know her because she's a hero to so many. Her name is Lynn Ulbricht, and she has started the new organization Mothers Against Cruel Sentencing, or MACS. And let's welcome her to the show, and I'm looking forward to talking with her. Hi, Lynn.
You. Hi.
It's good to see you in person again.
You too.
I guess, first of all, let me ask, how was your experience at PorcFest this year?
Well, it was great. It was so exciting to have Ross there.
Yeah.
And walking the Silk Road, that path that was built, I guess, a few years ago, created through the grounds.
Yeah.
It's a great shortcut, too.
Great shortcut through all the campsites, and of course, a lot of, in the spirit of the Silk Road, a lot of vendors set up and sell their wares around on the Silk Road. And I know it was, I think it was a real culmination of obviously, I mean, you've worked more tirelessly than anyone on this, but I think so many people, over the last 10 years have pitched in and helped out where they could. And I know PorcFest was one of the first communities to really be that first kernel of support. And I know it was a great fulfillment of all that work for Ross to come and visit, and also to have you back as well, Lynn. We always love having you.
Yeah, it's always fun. I highly recommend it. It's really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so if you could tell me a little bit more about Mothers Against Cruel Sentencing. So you achieved this great goal for yourself and your son and your family, and you decided not to just say, well, my family's good, we're going to forget everyone else. You decided, no, there's more work to be done. Could you tell me about your thought process there and what led you to found this new organization?
Sure. Actually, I had the idea a few years ago.
Yeah.
When I got a message from a mom who's just talking about her son, and he got 16 years in prison for a fairly minor drug offense. He was young, and I just thought, God, somebody's got to do something about this. And this voice said, well, maybe you can. And I thought, I'm too busy, I got to get Ross out, But I never forgot that. And I thought about it, and then I just thought, no, I can't take on another thing right now. But now Ross is out, thank God, thanks to President Trump and so many others, so many people in the liberty movement, and so grateful that here he is. And so I cannot forget these people I met over the years and the sentences they had, and it's just wrong.
Yeah.
And so starting a new organization, very, very nascent. It's just getting started. But I want to call attention to these sentences and what's going on, because as Ross said in a speech he gave at Freedom Fest, easily over half the people in prison do not belong in there.
Yeah.
And are not any kind of threat to anyone. And they have these sentences that are just unheard of since Really, the drug war started in the 1980s. That's when things really ratcheted up. And it's just un-American, flat out. And it's actually, it's in violation of the Bill of Rights, because in the Eighth Amendment, it prohibits cruel and unusual punishment. And it's definitely unusual, because before the 80s, nobody got sentences like these kind of offenses. And it's extremely cruel. Yeah. And it's just against our values. And there's also something called the sentencing, oh gosh, now I'm going to go blank on it, Reform Act that was passed by Congress. And one of the things it says is that a sentence should be sufficient but no longer than necessary. And it contains something called the parsimony clause, which is basically saying if you're going to err on the side of a shorter sentence, less punishment, not more. And they're doing the opposite, in violation of Congress and the Bill of Rights of the United States Constitution. So I feel like, it's a big part of why we have such horrible mass incarceration, because people are staying in for ridiculous amounts, decades and decades longer, even lifetimes, as like Ross is the poster boy for crazy sentences.
Yeah.
And, double life plus 40 years for nonviolent offenses. Hello?
Yeah,
no chance for restitution or reform.
Yeah. You hear people who commit murders and people who commit rapes who don't get sentences like that.
Oh yeah,
and people
lots.
Facing charged with nonviolent crimes. It's the disproportionality is certainly seems crazy to me. Now, when Ross says, as you just kind of reiterated, that from his experience, like 50% of the people that he knew shouldn't be there, is that just based on assessment that these are people who are not a threat to anyone else? Maybe they did what they were charged with doing, but just the length of the sentence is disproportionate to the crime?
I'd say generally that's right. He said, look, there's people that need to be in here. They're dangerous people. They're dangerous to us out here. But over 50%, he said, easily, and he's pretty good at assessing numbers and things like that, don't belong in here. They're not a threat. If you were walking down a dark alley, you would not be afraid to have them walk by you.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. It's like they've never been violent.
Yeah.
And they're living out these horrible sentences, and it's hurting their families, it's hurting, of course, them and their communities. It's just overkill, way overkill.
Well, I imagine something that's often underestimated too is, obviously the primary thing we're concerned about here is the fairness for the individual who's
Right.
rotting away and maybe has a lot to contribute to society, just like Ross has much to contribute, and we're really glad that he's out. But there's also the effect of how much money is this costing the taxpayers
billions
to
of dollars.
put people in a cage for years and years on end when they aren't a threat to society. I mean, I remember seeing statistics when I was working on these issues in the Maine Senate that it costs more to house an inmate for a single year than it costs to put someone through like 4 years of an Ivy League education.
Oh, really? I didn't know that one. I've got all these different statistics in my mind. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a waste. And so many of them, okay, if you want to restrain them or have them do community service or payback or whatever, house arrest is a good idea. Put an ankle bracelet on them.
Yeah.
It's very expensive to run that whole thing. Very expensive.
Now, why do you think we are in this situation? Obviously, you mentioned the war on drugs, and kind of there's been certainly a tendency among politicians for the last 50 years or so to want to show that they're tough on crime, they're tough on drugs, including you hear horror stories about people just for possession offenses or getting very, very harsh sentences. But I imagine there's probably a lot of money involved too. That if there's a lot of money being spent, there are special interest groups. Maybe it's I hear talk about the prison guard unions sometimes, lobbying for these kinds of...
They're very big lobbyists in DC.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So are the private prisons.
Yeah.
So are the police unions. That's about marijuana specifically.
Yeah.
And not, hey, don't decriminalize it. It's,
Yeah.
It is, it's, yeah.
It's always seemed to me
It is a big industry.
I feel like I remember a friend of mine, Andrew Heaton, who has a show talking about, if we were going to have private prisons, we should at least like maybe give them bonuses for people not when people get out for not reoffending, for the success stories and actually helping people get out and become productive again, rather than just paying them to warehouse people. And the longer you warehouse them, the more money they make.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
And the more of them you have. I read an article one time, hey, the prisons put out word into their town because most people worked for them.
Yeah.
Hey, we've got a lot of empty beds in here. We need to fill it up. You're going to be out of a job if you don't get, it's a business.
Yeah.
And people are the inventory. But it's not that different in my mind than a publicly run prison.
Yeah.
The whole thing seems to me that there's a lot of money involved. It's an industry.
Yeah. Bad incentives all around.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as far as MACS, Mothers Against Cruel Sentencing, what are some of the strategies you're looking to do to help some of these individuals?
Yeah. And by the way, you don't have to be a mother to be involved. It's a good brand, and I'm a mother, so, we went back and forth. But I think a lot of times it is the mothers who will stick by their loved ones, and not always at all. But so that's what we came up with. But, it's, like I said, very new. I wouldn't have even launched it quite so soon, but all these summer conferences came up, and it was such a great way to launch it and talk about it. And I want to learn a whole lot more about what's the most, effective thing to do. One of our visions is to have different inmates, loved ones, like mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, do a little video and talk about their loved one and what they did and what their sentence is. Because when you hear these sentences, it shocks you. And I know a lot of people were shocked at Ross's sentence. I would talk about him, and then I tell them, they go, "What?" But I felt like that over and over again, meeting people in the prisons.
So what are some of the sentences we're talking about here?
Well, a lot of the most horrific are a result of the third strike law that was a result of the Clinton
in California
crime bill. No, it's a federal.
Oh, federal.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was instituted in 1994, and basically it's, I may go wrong on this. This is part of what I need to do, is really get solid on a lot of these things. But it's basically, because I know people who are there as victims of this, and what it is, and Ross knows them, of course. It's third strike. So this is part of Clinton and Biden, 1994 crime bill. They were involved in this, where if you do 2 offenses and you get out, you say serve your time or whatever, but then you do a third, you automatically get a life sentence, no matter what it is. So, for instance, Ross knows a guy, and I've met him in the visiting room, but also I know his sister, and he'll be one of the people we will feature. He had his third strike was user amount of meth in his pocket. He was an addict.
Yeah.
He's serving life sentence in a maximum security prison. He's not violent. Ross says he's a good guy.
Wow.
That's one. Another one, Jose, who I also met his sister. Because people come and visit, we get to know each other, that kind of thing. He had residue on a dollar bill, and he got caught, and he's serving life now because of it's a third strike.
Was it confirmed that you think about how much money passes hands? They say it's one of the dirtiest things.
Yeah, exactly.
for so many reasons.
Yeah.
That seems crazy to me.
Yeah.
Unless they could, I wonder if they could even prove that it was him who was using the dollar bill for that purpose.
Well, and I brought it up to a guard, so I was so upset about it, and the guard was, now not all guard. There's whole guards like anybody else. There's different ones, obviously.
Yeah.
But his was, well, he shouldn't have been around that. That's all. It's like he defended it, and I'm like, okay, but like you say, I could have that in my pocket.
Yeah.
So but another person that has come to our attention is a woman named Tanika, and I never can grasp her last name. She's actually the Libertarian Party of Mississippi has become aware of her as well. She had 2 crimes. She served her time, and then she got apprehended for a bag of marijuana in her car. which, okay, that's not really smart to do that, but it's a bag of marijuana. And she's serving life. And she's got 4 children. And then it's come out that she recently got cancer. This poor woman.
Yeah.
It's too much, It's just too much. And then how do you, if I don't know, it's like you serve your time and you make a mistake.
Yeah.
Life?
Yeah.
It's way outdated. But with the First Step Act, that was my understanding, is that it was reduced to 25 years, third strike, which is still a long sentence. Mm. And that was under Trump. And but what I hope I'm right about this, but what happened at the time was, oh, great, we've got 25 years and I've done 18. I can get out in, 7 years or whatever. And then it turned out that they weren't making, if you already were in there for that, you still had to serve life. It wasn't retroactive.
Just looking forward, not looking backwards.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, well, slavery's bad, so we'll eradicate slavery, but oh, so sorry, you were a slave before, so you have to stay a slave.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially that's what it is, and that makes no sense.
Yeah.
So this kind of crazy stuff, I mean, it seems like it just is hurting so many people and children and communities. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the hardest things to think about is kids whose parents are taken away from them. And I certainly understand that if that parent is a violent person who's a danger to themselves or to their family or to others, but you better have a pretty good reason for snatching a parent away from their kids, because that's going to have an impact on that kid's life.
Oh,
I mean,
totally.
And probably don't be surprised when that kid ends up in the system 20 years later without good parental figures to guide them.
Statistically, they will.
Yeah.
And when I would see these kids, I would see them coming to visit their dads. In my case, because I was a men's prison, and they were so excited to see their father, and I love my daddy, and T-shirt, and crawl all over him, and it's so happy. And It was such a wonderful thing to see them get this time, And then this happened to be in New York, and so we rode an elevator back down, and this kid had to be pried away from his father and, was shattered, crying. It was just awful. And this one mom I talked to, she was like, before he got arrested, her husband, it was like the kids were doing great, straight A's, all of this. And she was really a good, hardworking mom, keeping their kids on track. Just everything's fallen apart now. And, it's crazy. And, of course, the sentences are so outrageous that they're gone for so long. They miss their whole... I know several people personally who didn't have a dad in their lives because of these crazy sentences. Nonviolent crimes.
Yeah.
Often drugs.
Yeah. And I know so many in the liberty movement, including Dr. Ron Paul, have been talking about this for a long time, that it's not to condone abuse of these drugs, and certainly recognize that these drugs can ruin someone's life. But what absolutely ruins someone's life is taking them and locking them in a cage for decades on end. And if someone has a drug abuse problem, then maybe we should be looking at that more as a health and a medical issue, and not necessarily a criminal justice issue.
Right. And it's not like they can't do drugs in prison. There's plenty of drugs in the prison. The drug war does not work.
Yeah.
I can't even work in the prison.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
If you can't keep drugs out of the prisons, which are like literally a police state.
Yeah, literally.
Then where can you then how will drug prohibition ever work?
Right. Exactly.
I've talked to so many people who they say, "Oh, you want to be, more lenient on this or that." It's like, don't you know how bad these drugs are? It's like, well, look at where things are right now. Have these policies worked out? The heroin, we're not even dealing with heroin anymore. We're dealing with fentanyl. Things have just gotten worse and worse, and that's been under a prohibitionist regime.
Exactly.
So obviously this has not worked out. And I think, Ron Paul has always pointed out that the war on drugs is really, it's a war on the people. It's a war on the citizens. It's a way that kind of this militaristic police state kind of turns inward on the people. And a lot of people who never threats to anyone else have clearly gotten swept up in all of this.
Yeah, and their families. And
Yeah.
Ross actually talked about this at Charlie Kirk's TPUSA event recently.
Yeah.
And how, he really got to see the effect of hard drugs on people really for the first time in his life, being in prison. And, it really hit him, look, he helped people get off drugs before they were leaving prison and that kind of thing while he was in there. But he also says, the drug war doesn't work.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And, and he's had a pretty up close and personal view.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not going to happen with the drug war.
Yeah. Well, it's always seemed to me, and maybe this is, speculating a little bit, but it's always seemed to me that, folks who get caught up in abuse of these hard substances, it often seems like it's a coping with some kind of underlying problem that's unaddressed, or a lack of sense of purpose in life, or and anyway, always seems to me that the solution there is to try to help people find, address that underlying issue, help them find their purpose, help them find a sense of, why do you get up in the morning? Do you have a family to live for? Do you have a job that gives you meaning? I know that there's a, chemical aspect of it, but it's certainly, we're not helping people by putting them in a cage.
No.
So, if for those who would like to get involved with Mothers Against Cruel Sentencing, even if they're not a mom,
No, you don't have to be a mom.
I'd like to get involved, and I'm not a mom. What would you recommend people do to find out more or get involved?
Sure, thanks. Well, we have a website. It hasn't really developed how it will. Like I say, it's pretty new. mothersagainstcruelsentencing.org. It's kind of a mouthful, but it just go there, and it kind of at least lays out our goals. And you had asked me before about that. I want to, make a noise about it, like talking to people like you. Let's look at this. I think a lot of people are just not aware of these sentences and how outrageous they are. And then I'm going to consult with different people in the criminal justice world who have been in this world and are already interested in talking about it with me. Like, what is the best way? I have an appointment next week with someone. It's like, what is the best thing and most realistic thing that we can do to mitigate this situation? Changing the law is hard.
Yeah.
As you know.
Yeah.
And so I don't. But also they do respond to pressure.
Yeah. And it is. I imagine changing the law is hard. I was proud my last year in the Maine Senate, we got some laws changed for people with past cannabis convictions where they could get their records sealed and kind of move forward with their life. So it is possible to change some of these laws, but certainly for folks who are already in the system, changing the law isn't necessarily going to create, I guess it depends on how the law is changed, but it isn't necessarily going to create an immediate impact for them. So I imagine for these folks, it's working the appeals process.
Yeah,
or
raising money for have lawyers. A lot of them don't have the means.
Yeah.
Very expensive.
Yeah.
To fight for your freedom in this country.
Yeah, especially when you're locked in a cage and you can't work a job.
I mean, in this, Ross was fortunate. He was high profile, and we had a lot of support, but couldn't have done it without it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was breaking us personally.
Yeah, and imagine it's as a last resort, people can always kind of hold out for a governor's or presidential pardon, but those are rare and hard to come by.
I'd like to see more.
Yeah.
And in fact, we're working on Steve Stockman's idea, which is Forgiveness Fridays, which is every Friday the president gave someone some kind of clemency. And I think it'd be great.
Yeah.
I think it'd be such a positive thing.
Yeah.
Reunite them with their families.
Yeah.
And, obviously good candidates.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be great.
Well, it sounds like there are plenty of good candidates out there.
There are thousands.
From what Ross says.
Yes.
So, it would be a wonderful idea. I would love to see President Trump and governors across the country really consider that.
I know. I really would too.
Yeah.
And it'd be so easy. The research will be done. There are, I think, I'm going to get the number wrong, terrible with numbers. I can say thousands of names just languishing at the pardon attorney's files. You submit a clemency petition, it is probably likely to go into a black hole.
Now, I imagine for a lot of governors, and maybe this isn't the case for Donald Trump because he's not, he's term limited, but imagine for a lot of governors, they probably just see the risk of, what if I grant a pardon or grant clemency to someone, and what if they go out and commit a crime?
And it has happened.
Yeah, and it has happened, and certainly you've seen it in political ads against folks campaigning for re-election. They gave someone a pardon, and then this person went out and raped someone, which I'm sure those are rare instances, but it does happen. And of course, politicians are by nature very risk averse. Right. How do you work to overcome kind of that risk aversion of politicians who don't want to do anything that could ever come back against them?
Right. And in our case, it was high profile. We had so much support, but we got a lot of people backing it. Yeah. Backing, different Congress people and even former Department of Justice people, and we had some backing. Yeah. And it was a pretty outrageous sentence. It's like double life plus 40 years, no parole. Yeah. And that's another thing. Well, we can go on and on about criminal justice, but there's no parole in the federal system. They took that away with the drug war. Mm. So there's no hope. It's death in prison. That's what it is if you get a life sentence. Wow. Or it's such a long sentence. This is another thing. It's such a long sentence that you will die in there.
Yeah, effectively.
Yeah, effectively.
Yeah.
So, but I think, it's tough. I think it has to look more advantageous to take that risk. And also you research, there's plenty of people who've never committed a violent crime that are sitting in cages. Yeah. Lots. Yeah. I think there's around 100, and I could be wrong. I've tried to nail this down. At least 100 people serving life for weed, marijuana, who are nonviolent. It's just life sentence.
It's just so amazing to think that is still going on after we have so many states. I know the federal government is still dragging its heels on this, but so many states have legalized cannabis and nullified the federal government policies on this, and to just think that there are still people, facing life in a cage for
serving
for cannabis.
They're in it. Yeah. Well, yeah.
I wonder what they must be thinking as they're sitting there hearing about people who are opening legal cannabis businesses.
Yeah. Well, a guy that Ross knew in Florence, Colorado, where he was in prison, was in there for marijuana. I think it was fairly large quantities. Don't know exactly. Yeah. But he's serving life in the prison, and down the road is a dispensary. Luckily, he's pardoned by President Trump.
Well, good.
Or commuted.
Well, I bet he's got some relevant industry experience for this emerging industry. He'll be a good contributing member of society. Well, I guess we have a few minutes left. Is there anything else you'd like to share, Lynn, or any final thoughts you want to make sure people walk away with?
Well, just as a personal note, I'm just so grateful to everyone who supported and not only mine, Ross's wife, our family. So many people worked so hard and I just am so grateful. And it's like to see him free and recovering and healing, and it's just and it's a tough thing to go through a maximum security prison for years, and for saving him. And I'm just so grateful. And to you and so many people, all these organizations. I don't dare start mentioning people, but I'll forget somebody. Well, but I know so many, and I couldn't have done it. Yeah. We couldn't have done it,
Well, Lynn, you gave people an opportunity to help by asking, right? People want to help.
Never shutting up. Never shut up. That is.
And I will say, I was really touched by what Ross said at PorcFest this year. I think we were talking about this before we were recording, but what he talked about in terms of finding that his own personal happiness was within his control, that If this is where he was to be, if he was going to be
Yes.
locked in a cage, he could fight it, he could resist it, he could be angry about it, but all that didn't help anything.
No.
That just made him miserable. And, you know, I know for myself, as I've been, obviously, I'm very grateful I've never been in the situation that Ross has been in, but those principles of, you know, I think Ross was quoting Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers. I think a lot about how those are principles that we could all learn from.
Oh, absolutely.
And certainly those principles helped me in the state legislature dealing with all of these politicians who would never vote to do the right thing. And I have to imagine when I think of like people who embody stoicism, of course I think about the man who we're celebrating his 90th birthday, who for 30 years was in Congress voting no and being the lone no, and at the end of the day just accepting, I can't control what these other hundreds of politicians do. All I can do is be accountable to myself, my vote, to my constituents. And, you know, we may not be able to control everything around us or the circumstances that we're in, but we can do the best that we can with our perceptions, our attitudes, and the decisions that we make. And I think Ross, in his remarks at PorcFest, which I certainly would encourage anyone who hasn't seen Ross's remarks at PorcFest, they are available on the Free State Project YouTube page. If you look through our PorcFest videos, it's very touching. We had a Jordan Page sang the Free Ross anthem.
That's awesome.
And live, and Ross gave very touching remarks. For those who haven't seen it, I mean, I know he spoke at multiple events, but maybe I'm biased. I thought his PorcFest remarks were my favorite. We were really, it was really a joy to have you and Ross and Caroline at PorcFest this year.
Oh, yeah. It was fantastic.
So
Yeah. So thanks so much.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I look forward to welcoming you back. You know, I hope that you will
yeah.
continue to join us
Gotta
at
keep
PorcFest
of
for years to come. Lynn, you're always
Too many friends. I have to go see my friends.
a lot of friends made along the way.
Absolutely. That was the silver lining of this whole ordeal.
Yeah.
It was all the great people
Yeah.
I met.
Well, adversity brings out the best in people, or it can. Or it can bring out the worst too. I guess it depends on your attitude.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, all right. Well,
you.
Lynn, thank you so much for joining
Yes,
me.
absolutely.
And to everyone who's watching, continue watching. We're really looking forward to celebrating Ron Paul's 90th birthday. Wishing the good doctor well. He has really changed the lives of so many people, including myself. And thank you so much for tuning in for this special broadcast. And Lynn, any final last word?
No, just thanks to everyone.
All right.
It's helped. Yeah.
Well, then my last word is, furthermore, my opinion is the Federal Reserve should be destroyed.
Amen.